Are you Meredith Grey or Christina Young? Which one of us is which?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I feel like just say lah. What do you think I am? Which one do you think I am?
You see, twice, right? Both you and Jane have said I'm Christina Yang.
Yeah.
But I don't feel Christina Yang because I think I'm Meredith Grey. I feel like I'm dark and emo and twisty. But the two of you are like, let's destroy the world. Conquer it. Overthrow it. Yeah.
No. I feel like you are way more powerful and strong and courageous. And I'm dark and twisty. If you heard episode 1, right? I like lie on the floor and like part 1 of this podcast, I lie on the floor and I am overwhelmed by anxious thoughts. Is that not dark and twisty?
But
no?
It's weird, right? The perceptions we have of each other. Because I feel like the two of you to me are like way fiercer as women than I am. Whereas I'm like shy and scared. Like, I have confrontation.
Yeah, that's totally flipped in my mind. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay. Anyway, so we're continuing with part 2 today, rest and creativity. And we're with Estella Low, aka the best friend, aka my person, Christina Yang.
Okay, sure.
And she's the young adults pastor. She wants me to emphasize All Church of Singapore Marine Parade. You are the pastor of pastors in my heart. Yes.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, so if you haven't really listened to part 1, do go and listen to that because we talk about silence, solitude, and how to keep the Sabbath in our individual lives, how to find rest in the midst of our hustle. So go listen to that because it's great. And today we're going to go to part 2 and we're going to talk about rest with regards to creativity. Yay, we're going to do some therapy today because you've been on a new leg of your journey recently when you had a sudden identity crisis about you as a creative person. So tell me what exactly happened, okay? Because I get this random text, right, a few weeks ago, out of the blue, this text, and guys, she rarely texts us, okay? She's like terrible. I'm always texting her and bothering her, and then she doesn't reply me.
I'm getting better, right? Like, now I reply within the day.
Yeah, but usually, the one who comes crying is me to you and not the other way around. Yeah. So, and she texts me out of the blue, do you think I'm a creative person? How do you think I express my creativity? And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from, friend? Because all our peeps, all the people in the booth agree, right? Will look at Pastor Estella and go, Pastor Estella is damn creative. Like every sermon she preaches is like,
Thanks.
Yeah. So tell us what is going on.
Oh my goodness. It was one of those days. Yeah. So what happened was I was listening to a podcast by Brene Brown with her sisters. And then she encouraged the listeners to all go take the wholehearted inventory, which is this list of things about like what you need to let go of and what you need to cultivate instead. Yeah. So I went to do it because I did in September last year, right? So I did in July this year to kind of like compare like where I'm at. And one of the things that I had like deteriorated the most in is along the spectrum of letting go of comparison and cultivating creativity.
Damn, that's deep.
Yeah. So first of all, like what does that even mean? But second of all, when I looked at it, I was like, wow. Die liao lor. Because I am super not creative. So I didn't really know how to, like what it meant to cultivate creativity. But I knew I didn't want to live a life of comparison, right? So this is not something I do often, but I actually asked for help because I could see that this was a problem in my life.
Yeah.
So I asked for help and I said to my mom, to a couple of friends, I said, I want to become more creative, but I don't know how. And every single person responded to me in the same way.
Yes. Were they as incredulous as I was?
Yeah. Yes. They were like, huh? What do you mean? You are absolutely creative. And so I had this like small existential crisis, like, oh my God, who am I? Because like my mom, especially I remember my mom, we were having dinner and I just told her this and her face was just like so confused.
I was so
confused. And so like one of the first few people I texted is you as well because I'm like, these are the people who know me the most. Yeah. Like, what on earth is going on with me? And I really was so confused and so distraught, like that there was a part of myself that other people saw that I couldn't see.
That you didn't perceive.
Yeah. And so I had a minor like,
Now, this is very interesting to me, and let me tell you why. Okay, so at TiVo, if you're listening and you're not from our church, right, one of our core values is creativity, and I would say Estella subscribes to exactly the same theological beliefs as we do, which is God is creative, He put His Spirit in every human being, so creativity is naturally, instinctually in every single human being. It is for everyone. So, of course, she subscribes to that. She is a creative human being. But what was just really interesting to me, right, because I've encountered this problem in my life too, which would be the flip. People naming me an artist and saying that in every other area I'm not pragmatic. So it's the flip reverse problem. But it brought up a very interesting conversation, because then we started to talk about how sometimes there's a real gap between theology and what you believe and the expression of creativity in our lives or our perception of ourselves in an actual human being lah. Yeah. So how has the reflecting been going? Do you feel a little bit better now?
Oh, so much better with a lot of help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I totally believe that theology, right? I just kind of like put it aside because I was thinking, there's many other things I can work on. So like, let's do other things first and like just accept that I'm not creative. I'm not a creative person.
Yeah.
But through talking to a lot of people, including you, I have discovered that my understanding of creativity was flawed. And my understanding of how creativity is supposed to be expressed was also not, it was flawed, like it's not complete. Yeah. So
tell us, what were you thinking about? What were you defining? Or what picture was coming to your mind when you think of creative?
Yeah, I think I thought that creative meant artistic. Yeah. And so I'm definitely not okay. Actually, I think I might be artistic now. Like
yes,
the more I think
lying
about,
on the floor,
yes.
No, kidding.
Painting and all that. But okay, at the earlier part of the journey, right? I was like, I'm not artistic, and so therefore I'm not creative. But what I didn't realize is that there is a very limited understanding of creativity, and just because I didn't feel like I could. Like I wasn't musical, I couldn't act, I couldn't paint, I couldn't create those kind of like artistic things. I thought that meant that I wasn't creative.
Yeah.
No,
I think, well, this is my own reflection now, which is I think there's been for too long, whether it's in culture or in science or even the church, right? This dichotomizing of like right brain, left brain people, pragmatic versus artistic. I remember it being always put on me because I naturally show artistic gifts, whether it was acting or dancing or all these things growing up, right? They're all like people just immediately typecast me as artistic, therefore out of control, no strategic mind, like there's just this box that people put artists into. And I found that I never quite fit into that. But it created so many problems for me as a leader because I would keep second guessing whether I'm supposed to be called to this, whether I'm strategic enough because I am an artist and I have emotions.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. And then now, of course, science is throwing all that out lah, because come on, nobody you can't switch off your right brain and then turn on your left brain. Your whole brain works together. Your whole being works together lah. Yeah, so it's been interesting unpacking that together with you. It's been helpful to me, really. But let's talk about this further because we're going to venture a little bit into identity today, right? So you also went to take another leadership test after that whole identity crisis, right? Because that's what millennials do when we are having identity crisis. We take more personality tests.
Yes, give me all the answers because I can't find them myself. Yeah.
So which is this test that you took and then you found that you're an individualist?
Right. So it's a leadership test called Principles U, like Principles YOU.
Oh, I know which one you're talking
Really?
about. I read the book this year. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So a friend sent it to me and I was like, okay, I'll just do it. It's so long. There's so many questions. But I think I was in a moment of like, I needed some answers. So I did it. And yeah, so what it says is that I'm an individualist. Yeah.
You walk to the beat. Individualists walk to the beat of their own drum and find unique ways of expressing themselves and their originality. They tend to be creative, independent, expressive, perceptive, and at times sensitive and dramatic, which is totally you.
Which I was like, how can this be me? Really, when I first read this, right? Okay, so first of all, the word creative jumped up to me, right? Because it was like a week or so after the whole like wholehearted inventory thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is Charmaine. This is not me.
Hi, I'm looking at this. This is not me.
Okay, see, we're so weird. But I was like, what do you mean? I'm not these things. I'm not creative. I'm not sensitive. Well, yeah, okay, I'm dramatic, but not in a good way. So I was like, it was it was a real struggle. And then because this test, right, it lists out like your top 3 things, right? And all of them talked about like someone who enjoys fun, who's energetic, who likes new experiences,
That part sounds like me.
yeah,
Okay then.
adaptable. And I just like, this really doesn't feel like me at all. But
Okay.
but yeah, it was such a comprehensive test. And
Yeah.
I really, really answered it like very as honestly as I
possible,
could, because
yeah.
I really wanted some answers. And so when I saw this, I just like, okay, then that's where the big existential crisis happened. Because I clearly don't understand myself. Yeah. And I just didn't know what to do with all this stuff. Yeah.
Because what's interesting about it, do you feel that this conflicts with your previous Strengths Finder findings?
Now looking back again, so I recently opened another test, the strength finders like results, right? And I looked at it and I was like, okay, I can see how it all aligns. But yeah, it's I just was looking at a different part of it before, if that makes sense.
So Estella's Strengths Finders, right? Her top 5 are discipline, restorative, belief, connectedness, developer. Yeah. So those are your 5. So I have a question, right? Because when I look at you, I've always seen you as a very disciplined person. You're way more consistent than I am, I would say. Yeah. So but then now but I also see that part of you, the individualist that principles you. Is that how it's like describes as being independent and pushing back against the status quo? It really fuels you. Actually, the interesting thing is mine, right, for Strengths Finder, my top 1 is individualization.
Yeah.
But I don't 100% resonate with the individualist like definition that the other one is using lah. Yeah.
I mean, it might be different definition. Okay, so this
or
is
maybe I rubbed off on you. Kidding, go on.
It's very possible, actually. And like I hang out with you all, the evolution, too much. I become creative also. But anyway, okay, so how it comes together, right? I think is okay. So in my asking friends and asking my family for help, right? So I asked them. So everybody said, "Oh, you're creative." So I asked back, like, what are the ways that you see me express creativity? So my mom said with words. And then like some other people also said things like, you said this as well, like with leadership and with processes and organizational thinking. So when people said all these things, I was like, but those aren't creative. Really, I didn't think that words were creative. I didn't think that leadership, processes, organizational, like none of these things were creative to me. I thought this is the whole left brain, right brain thing. I thought they were logical, analytical. So it can't be creative. And so I had to wrestle with that. And then like taking the leadership test and then looking at my strengths finders and realizing that actually those things come together, that I am disciplined, that I have process, routine, structure in my life. But that doesn't mean that I'm not creative, right? Like there is a creative way to use processes, to think of processes, to build processes.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So which begs the question, right? How much should we pay attention to what our personality test says about us?
I feel like you can answer this better.
Because I think there's always a tension, right? Between especially I think as young adults or people even in our 30s still, right? Of that tension of trying to figure out our true identity versus the roles that we have responsibilities to, which our true identity exists in it and it spills out. I think it comes out no matter how hard you try to suppress. But I think that tension is very interesting of like when you fill in a personality test, are you filling it in as honestly as your temperament response, or are you filling it in according to the role that you now are forced to inhabit, so to speak, right? So it's an interesting tension lah.
Yeah.
But now looking back, when I look at, so I was telling you the other day, right? Actually, when I first did the Strengths Finders 5 years ago at Fuller, I was kind of like, a little bit of my ego came out, like, because my Strengths Finders are individualization, relator. I really bucked against that one. Strategic, learner, intellection. So I was very disappointed. I was like, no, strategic should be my top
Number one.
Because I was at a state where like, I don't want to be around people. I don't want to relate to you. You have burned me out. And I just kind of wanted to be like, I just strategic and no emotion in whatever I was doing. But now when I look at it, I go, oh, that's completely me. I am an individualizer. Connection and relating to the people I lead and mentor is very important. I am strategic, but it's not top there. It's just part of who I am. And I'm a learner intellectual. That one really surprised me.
Mm.
Because again, I had the flip of you,
Right,
which was people keep telling me you're artistic, you're right brain, usually senior pastors who are right brain, their church is very messy, but there's nothing messy about my church.
Definitely not.
Yeah, and Fuller was a time when I would say very late in life to discover that, oh, I am an intellect.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, actually very depressing that I discovered it that late. Yeah, but anyway, okay, so let me bring it back to you, right? So do you think that discipline is your core value? Or is it because you've always been given responsibility because you're a reliable person?
Both, I guess. Yeah. I think I can see how it was cultivated in me because of the roles that I held and the things that I had to do, and kind of being like somewhat forced into it, right? Because like you have to find ways to survive and to function and to thrive in amidst the responsibilities given to you. And so it was somewhat nurtured. But it also is somewhat instinctual in that like even now, right, I notice how my brain goes towards like processes. And not in a boring kind of way. Now I'm like, I am creative. Don't call me boring, okay? I'm owning that part of myself. But yeah, my mind goes to these things. I can perceive these things. It's just kind of like who I am. Yeah.
So do you find like now, 1-2 months since we've had this conversation about your identity crisis, that you're a little bit more at peace, that you are both all those personality tests that you took before and the findings that you're having now with the new tests that you're taking or the new explorations that you're doing?
Well, yes and no. I think I'm becoming more okay with just saying like I am creative.
Okay.
Like that still feels odd. But being able to be able to name that and own that part of who I am. So like I'm becoming more and more okay with saying some of these things. Like I am disciplined, I am creative, I desire better. Like all these things that I'm more comfortable to say. But I'm still figuring out what all of it means. Because like I'm a person who's always wanting to live a life that has integrity. That is aligned. My values.
That's true to yourself.
Yeah, that's true to myself. My values must align with my direction, my work and everything. So this like relearning who I am is going to be a long process of me then adjusting how I work, what I'm working on accordingly.
Well, let me quote a text back to you, right?
Oh,
that you
dear.
texted me when we were going back and forth and reflecting. You said this, my instinctive reflection is that my creativity is sparked when I perceive that the world is not as it should be. I mean, wow, it doesn't get more poetic
Thank
than
you.
that.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Okay, so let me bring it to another sidetrack, right? Because on this topic of true line of our identity, you've always been someone, ever since I've known you, right? Every now and then you have a mission statement about yourself. So let's talk about that for a moment, right? So, because the interesting thing that came up during this conversation again was I told you I've never really had a mission statement for myself. I find it very hard to derive one. I recently did though.
Yeah.
So now tell me, what are the pros and cons of having a personal mission statement?
Well, so I think my whole life, right, I have always had a big question in my heart, which is like, what is my purpose in life? So pre-Fuller, this was already a huge question for me.
Yeah.
It's post-Fuller that I've been able to articulate a bit more what that purpose is, what my mission. I mean, you can call it values, vision, mission, whatever, purpose, find your why, right? So all talking about the same thing, calling even, roughly the same thing. What's good about it is that it's not actually the statement that helps me. It's the process of crafting it that helps me. So I guess this says something about me also, that it really never is about the destination for me. Because even until now, like saying that feels right, but still not completely right. Like I can never land fully on a calling statement or mission statement because it always feels incomplete. So it's like my whole life is this journey to discover like, who am I? What am I called to do? And I love love-hate lah, but generally love that process. Because it just makes me more aware. It makes life exciting, meaningful. Like I never want to stop asking questions. I never want to stop learning. And so if I never have a concrete mission statement, I guess that's fine as long as I'm always asking the questions.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because for me, right, this year is the first time that I've really consolidated myself into a statement. So my statement currently is connected leadership, intelligence, and creativity. Now, I'm not holding very tightly to that statement, but the pro of it, I think, is it's allowed me to live a little bit more bravely. Like to just go, yeah, this is me and I can run with this. But again, to hold it lightly, rather than trying to box myself in all the time.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, right, like this whole, maybe one day we have to have a conversation with an older person, right? Stages of life. And when is it that we come into our identity and really, really know who we are? Because I go like, I thought I'm supposed to have like Cultivating this when I was 20 years old and God called me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but now it's like, wow, I'm 39 and I'm like just figuring this out. And I'm not even sure. I would say I think I'm 80%, 70, 80% sure of this statement, but may not be in like a couple of years. Yeah. So it's been a very interesting journey lah. Yeah, but that's it. I do want to say this, like, especially because we got a lot of young people listening in, right? That it's a very, I think in our 20s, we're so sure that we know who we are. Only to discover horribly at our 30s.
You have no clue.
Idea.
Yeah.
But I do think one thing I've decided to hold on to with regards to identity that's been helpful is that to accept that, hey, you know what? I am all things as a human being. I'm a spectrum of many things, and I don't have to be artistic or pragmatic or one thing or the other. I can be a bit of everything. And then I find it's very freeing. Yeah. Yes.
I also come from this school of, I'm not sure that everybody will agree with this, but I do think that your calling, your purpose, your why can change with time. Yeah. So I'm not sure if the experts will agree lah, but that's my own experience of it, that as you change as a person, as you grow, you discover more about yourself, about others, about this world, and then your place in it. And it should shift, actually. I would be very concerned if it doesn't shift, because I do think that indicates that you're not asking questions enough, that you're not learning enough.
But do you think that's because we're defining it differently?
Maybe, yeah.
Because for me, I would go like, I think that there is something in there that we were designed to do, but we take a long time to discover it. And our roles shift and change, and our mission or whatever responsibilities we take on are different, but more and more of you hopefully more and more of you starts to bleed out instead of get covered. Yeah,
it's possible. Maybe like at the very core, your core why, right? Like it doesn't change. It's just that you haven't discovered it, or like the what and the how is changing. Maybe, I don't know, but I think all that means is that you will always be asking questions. You'll always be like, why, what, how.
That's true.
And that
sucks.
Oh, yeah, it does. But I think I've seen what happens to people who stop asking those questions.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I think awareness is it's a harder way to be. It's a better way to be, but a harder way to be.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next thing, right? So where are you now in this creativity exploration, right? What has changed or like started to bleed into your reflections with regards to your adamant belief in the Sabbath and rest? What things have you been trying out for yourself?
So I've recently, about a month or so ago, started to try and define what is creative work and creative rest. So to distinguish the two. So like creative work for me is all the teaching, the preaching, the words, the leadership, the organizational processes. So I know I must be engaged in creative work. Otherwise, my soul is dead.
Mm,
So I need to do that. But I also need creative rest.
mm.
And that is something new that I'm exploring a little bit, which is related to what
Yeah.
Sandra Dalton Smith talks about, because one of the rests she says that every human needs is creative rest. And so it's kind of been trying to figure out what feels restful. Okay, let me read her definition of creative rest in this book. Let's see. Okay, so creative rest is the rest that a person finds when immersed in creative beauty. Whether natural or man-made, all beauty is creative work, and our soul yearns to be awed and captivated. So I recognize that there's a part of me that needs to be in awe and captivated by something beautiful. Yeah, and so I'm trying to figure out what that is lah. What feels creative while still being restful.
This is very fascinating to me because we're already preparing, like having our preliminary conversations about this recently, right? And because I land further along the spectrum of artistic, you would say you land slightly more on the other spectrum of a bit more pragmatic, right? And we were talking about the differences in how we do creativity and rest. Because I was telling you that I do not find, because right now you're doing watercolor.
Yes.
Yeah, you're doing watercolor as your creative rest,
Yes.
right? And I go like, to me, there's nothing about artistic stuff that is creative rest for me at the moment, because my whole life revolves around that artistic endeavor.
Yeah.
But now when you're talking though, we're starting to land pretty similar, because we've categorized it as there's creative work and there's creative rest.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me what watercoloring does for you.
So watercolor to me is an artistic expression, and because there is nothing about my work that requires me to express creativity in this way, unlike you, for example, right? So like so it's a very clear distinction that when I do something like watercolor, or when I do something that's artistic, that is not work.
Yeah.
Because nothing in my job requires me to do that. So it feels restful to be able to paint. And I feel like what I love about it is that I can feel my brain making new connections. And I think that's what creativity is about. It's about making something new for you. So there's nothing about watercolors or anything that is new to this world, but it's new to me. And that is creativity. Making something new out of nothing. Creating order in chaos. And so
what you define it as rest.
Yes. And because I'm not compelled to do it by anything or anyone else.
And you're not graded, there's no expectations that come for it. Yeah.
And there's nothing I need to produce. So there's creative production and creative rest, creative work and creative rest. And so when I do watercolor, I can feel connections like forming in my brain, in my hands. Okay, this is my creative artistic side, right? Like I imagine it happening. And that feels very life-giving for me when I can see colors coming together. When I can look at a color, like now I can look at a color and say, like, I don't have that paint. So what do I need to mix to create that color? And then like to like play and have fun with that, and then realize that it's totally wrong. This color I need to throw away. And to have no expectation, that it's all right if it's messed up,
That's fascinating to me.
I'm learning about perspective and proportion, like how the cup cannot be too big, and if it's in the front, how should it look? If it's in the back, how should it look? Like all these things I've never had to engage with before. But it's, I don't know, it's just a part of my brain that is like awakened. Very safely.
That is like, okay, that makes me think maybe I should go and do some watercoloring. No, because you see, I think for me, right, like distressing is like, art is the last thing I will run to. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will go and watch a movie, a theater piece, and I'll feel energized. But it comes with inspiration, sometimes discouragement too, because I cannot disengage it from that part of me that needs to excel at that as an artist and do well and to create as my work. So I was telling her the only thing right now I'm really craving to go overseas, because when I go to a museum, we walk through culture, we taste another culture's food, we hear the language, we see the people. That comes with no expectations.
Yes.
It's just being and experiencing and I feel connected to the beauty of the world.
Yeah.
And what you feel, I guess, with watercolor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a much cheaper option than yours.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, it's just very fascinating. Yeah, but I guess which beckons the way you already described it. There is creative work and there's creative rest, and everyone
Yes.
has a different definition of what that looks like in their life, lah. Yeah. Ay. Anyway, okay, but let me bring this back to the Sabbath, right? So a lot of times I think I grew up in a context. Well, I have very creative mentors, I would say. But the thing that I was always taught was that you Sabbath in order to create,
Ah.
which in the
Okay.
end I think hasn't rung true for me. And now it's no longer how I preach the Sabbath. Like, it's the idea of like, oh, you Sabbath and you rest so that you can the next day go and create again and be creative again. And I did not find that life-giving at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about how do we. Well, I'm not sure I have a question now anyway. Like, how do we avoid, falling into that trap? Because, okay, never mind creativity, right? But just the mentality. And I think that's a majority of the mentality that Christians have, or even the secular world has. We de-stress on the weekend. We pack it with lots of recreation. I know, that's the phrase they used to use. You recreate so that you can create again.
Oh my.
Yeah, but that's totally not the case, right?
Yeah.
Because whether you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, you just
Yeah.
end up going back to work as exhausted
Yeah.
because it's a completely wrong mentality, right?
Yeah.
It almost makes it work to recreate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the moment it becomes something like you feel like you must do for a specific purpose or outcome, like that is the definition of work.
Yeah. I remember you came and preached one time about the Sabbath, and the thing you said something that it just rang into my heart, which is like the Sabbath is the day we get to stop and say enough is enough. And that really resonated with me. I think that has really changed the way I do it. No, Sabbath is not rest to create again. It is just rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's rest to rest. That's it. There's no like other objective. There's no other outcome that you're looking for. So even like creative rest is for rest. It's not for creativity. Yeah. Physical rest is all of the types of rest are for rest.
Yeah.
Not for anything else. Yeah.
That's a hard one to really live into, don't you think? It takes a while to change that mindset.
It does, because capitalism.
Yes.
Which is like but it really is like our whole lives are built around what we can produce. And so even rest becomes tied up with that you rest so that you can produce more.
Yeah.
It's never like rest for the sake of rest.
Yes.
And that's why we really need to break that and recognize that there is a place for work and there's a place for rest, and each has its own place.
Okay, so let's bring it also to another topic, right? Which is, let's talk about keeping the Sabbath for creatives. So I'm going to ask for your advice here, right? As a person who, or rather, keeping the Sabbath for artists.
Okay.
Right? Because this is a tension I still find myself. Well, as I get older, I think I do it better. But I must say, sometimes for the artist, right, it is a struggle to keep the Sabbath on the seventh day. Because sometimes as an artist, there's a state of flow that you don't want to break. Or don't say our schedules are very rough. Those who are in the industry, like Raymond's in the industry, and sometimes there's midnight shifts and then your whole clock just gets turned upside down. And again, I think that's the capitalistic system at work. Artists are not always valued and not given the same rhythms, I think, as normal people are. And so it's all enmeshed in that, right? So how do we straddle that tension? Right? Because no matter what, I've realized if I don't keep the seventh day, eventually after I finish a project, let's say it spans a couple of weeks, there's always a crash after.
Yeah.
What do I do? Or can I like maybe break it up and go like, okay, we'll work for 6 weeks and then the 7th week we shall crash?
I mean, if you make it to the 7th week.
It's true, right?
Yeah, the question is, will you make it? Yeah. Well, this is a tough one. And I think it actually applies for more than just artists, right? Like there are a lot of people who are so we live in a system that doesn't encourage this.
Yeah.
And so like if there's no way for you to break away from the system, it's almost like there's no way for you to keep the Sabbath and there's no way for you to rest. And so the ultimate dream really is that we as Christians would like go and like create an alternative system.
Alternative system in the world.
Yeah, you know, so like if you want to so you know all those people who are opening Christian businesses, I'm like, sure, but like are you really an alternative to the system? Are you really giving people rest? Are you really saying that enough is enough? Or are you pursuing the same things, just slapping the name of God on top of it? Right? So so the dream would be for an industry that like an artistic industry that allows space for rest.
I agree. But it is really tough, I have to say, to create a system within an alternative system within an existing system is really tough.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but let me say I have heard a couple of like pretty cool places. Like I know there is one advertising firm in the US, like it's run by a Christian. He makes everyone take a Sabbath. But he also every 7th year puts the entire company on leave, creative leave,
The
paid
whole
leave,
company?
the whole company.
Wow.
Now they are a very successful company. They have like huge projects. I'm talking like Nike, Adidas. They take that kind of like advertising campaigns because they are so they are just so well known.
Yeah.
You see, that's the other problem with Sabbath, right? Most artists are not rich. You know, majority of us are poor.
Right.
And underpaid. You know, like it
Yeah.
takes money to take the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of course we hope the system will be different, and we hope
Yeah.
that people in power see that. And so like hopefully this podcast gets out there to some rich people so they can wake up their idea. But like if they don't, then but remember, so I said this in the part 1 of the these 2 podcasts that it cannot happen without community. And that's why like for someone, again, this is a dream lah. Like for someone that is say poor and in poverty and they feel like they have to work every single day. This is where a rich person in the church can come in and say like, I'm gonna supplement. I'll pay for you to rest. I'll supplement something in your life in some way so that you don't have to be a slave to this system. And so that's why I am learning to appreciate rich people in the church, because I think they exist for a reason. Like the body of Christ needs to be diverse enough that you can do that, lor. And it sucks, but sometimes like the artist or the employee just has to be able to say no. And they need to have the backing of a community so that they have the courage to resist.
No, I agree. Like I think that's one of the, if you ask me, one of the key markers, the great key markers of a great church. I mean, that's why it's written all over the Bible, right? That we Sabbath well. That we share all things so that everyone can have rest. But it's such a pipe dream, isn't it? It's such a pipe dream. Like you don't see it in existence right now. You see the prosperity gospel in existence, which is basically capitalism dressed up as Jesus. Unfortunately. But it is that wow, can you imagine if our churches would actually do that?
I can.
If we could get people together and church as a capital C together do that, can you imagine?
The thing we didn't quite talk about, but actually, so in the Old Testament, there's not just the Sabbath, there's a Sabbath year, which is once every 7 years. And then there's the year of Jubilee, which is the best year. It is the most amazing year once, it's the 50th year.
Yeah, but you get 49th off and you get 50th off.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? You get 2 years off. But the thing about the Jubilee year, right? Okay, there's a lot of things. Which thing do I want to tell you? Well, okay, I'll tell you that God actually tells Israel, right, that on the 48th year, you will have enough crops for 3 years. Which means it will cover you on the 49th, the 50th, and then the
enough
first.
to sow for the first.
Yes.
Well,
And so what God actually promises people who keep the radical Sabbath is that He will provide enough. And I think
But
that
no one's radical enough to do it.
yeah, and we also God's definition of enough is not the same as our definition of enough,
Yes,
because
okay.
we think that what God has provided for us is not enough, right? And we want more and more, and that's
Yeah.
why it will never feel like enough. That's why we
Yeah.
never feel safe to take such a radical Sabbath.
Mm,
But so that's the thing about Jubilee year. God says that He will provide enough for
Yes.
you to rest. And you know, if Israel had kept Jubilee, which there is proof that they didn't,
Mm.
but if they did, like I can just imagine on the 50th year. So what happens is that all debts are forgiven
Yeah.
completely. So it's like the whole economy resets.
Yes. And everybody has their portion returned to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have your land returned to you. And if you were a slave, you get
You're
to go
set free.
home to your
Yeah.
family. I mean, like, what?
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
crazy stuff. And if we did that, which we won't. But I mean, can you imagine what kind of witness even?
Yeah.
So if just the church did that, I don't know how, but yeah, capital C church, if we did that, then the world would look and see like, wow, what is it about these people that they
Are so crazy.
yeah, they are so
Yeah.
radical. You want to talk about being a witness for Christ, a disciple of Christ, salt and light in this world.
Yeah.
I think this is it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Oh my God, we could go so many places with this, but we shouldn't. Yeah, because next year, I think one of the things that I'm going to try to apply in my life and also preach about is the idea of simplicity, which is a little bit of offshoot of minimalism. And
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing, right? We are so caught up in capitalism that it's become impossible to do the Sabbath until we are willing to let go, or to be like the rich young ruler and say, we're willing to give up all these things,
Yes.
sell it and give to the poor, and
Yes.
trust God and
Yes.
live with enough, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know. We will have to give up our champagne buffets, friend.
That is true. Okay.
Wow, very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah lah.
Yeah. But so back to the original question. Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent because
Yeah.
like when I talk about these things, I get excited. But so for artistic people, right,
Yes.
taking a Sabbath and taking creative rest, so like I said, it can only happen in community, but like what we've been saying, it does take people saying no to certain expectations. So I think I'm not an artist, but I do think that even everyone has certain expectation of what a successful career looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the kind of projects they want to be involved in, in order to make a mark in this world. And so in order to be able to take a rest, artists need to be discerning about what they say yes to.
Yeah.
And there are some places that are toxic, right? And there are some projects that might be good at the start, but will damage your life and your spirituality. Sometimes you just have to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard for young people. That's hard for me.
Yeah. For me too.
Yeah. Well, I think that actually that's a good place to close it off. Yeah. We're gonna do this again. This was quite fun.
Sure.
Hey, so we are gonna play a game of Would You Rather.
Yay!
So first question is, would you rather live in the city or by the sea?
City.
By the sea.
You really love the beach, eh?
I do. It really, and this is the whole creative rest thing. Like I find the most beauty by huge bodies of water.
I just can think of all the sand getting everywhere. My favorite part of our holiday when we went to the US was walking alone through the city in New York.
Oh, so gross, seriously. I cannot deal. It's so
New York?
dirty. Yeah. Did you not see how dirty it was? Like the trash and like the smells.
Oh, never mind. Yes, okay.
Second question is, would you rather have unlimited battery or unlimited Wi-Fi
On your phone?
on your device?
On your Wow.
Oh my gosh, both. Like, how do you
How
choose?
do you choose? Yeah.
What's the point of having battery without Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi without battery?
Yeah, okay. Our answer is both.
But can meh? Is that allowed? I thought we need to choose one.
You and your categories.
Yeah, both.
Okay. Third question is, would you rather give up TV or give up music?
Music.
TV.
Music.
Wow, that's surprising to me.
Really?
Yeah, surprising to me also.
Huh?
I thought that.
TV is like storytelling, worlds, imagination.
Wow.
Music is more emotion. Maybe that's why it's more your thing, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Next question. Would you rather go back in time or to see the future?
It's from last
Wait.
week.
Yeah, you guys talked about this before. Okay.
Ah.
So actually, before I heard your episode about this, I would have said go back in time. But after you guys share, I was like, oh yeah, it doesn't make sense. I want to go to the future too.
Why would you want to go to the past?
I don't know.
See history?
Like curiosity, lor. Maybe like because
Ah.
like history as is reported now is not the truth, right?
Mm.
Right? Like people have
Oh.
butchered it, or like history is from the winners. I want to like know what really happened. I want to feel, I want to experience. But then I thought about it and I was like, yeah, it's gonna be gross and like there's all sorts of
Toilet.
diseases.
There's so many ways you could go with this. Because actually, I went back to think about it. Actually, I wouldn't mind going back to see myself as a third party observer
Ah.
to have insight into how I made a decision.
Ah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay, next question is, would you rather your life be an action movie or a musical play?
Musical.
What? You really do love musicals. You do, yeah.
I do, and it's so like
Why?
it lifts your spirits. Like actually,
Even Les Miserables.
as in like music. I don't really. Oh my gosh, we're totally different people. Why are we even
Why
friends?
can't we even live together?
Yeah.
All right, next question. Would you rather explore space or explore the deep sea?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Um.
I'll choose space because I'm scared of deep water.
Yeah, actually, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to see water from a distance. I don't quite like being in the deep water, and also I think it's kind of freaky. So space.
Yeah. Next, would you rather have a photographic memory or IQ of 200?
Or 200.
100.
No, 200.
IQ of 200 of photographing. Photographic memory. 'Cause
IQ.
You want IQ? Why?
Because I want to be smart. Yeah. Well, I think like a photographic memory feels like it could be more of a weakness. Like it would bother me more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why would it be a weakness?
Because I would probably like overanalyze everything that I remember.
Oh my god, I wish I could like have as much information packed in my brain so that I could analyze it.
Yeah. No.
But 200, my thinking is if I have an IQ of 200, I might not be relatable to a person anymore. I wouldn't be able to connect as easily. I'll be too in my...
Can I have IQ of 200 and empathy? Like, can I? Then I
You
can be a
can.
normal person.
You can have anything you want.
All right, last question is, would you rather be unable to close any door once it's open or be unable to open any door once it's closed?
What?
Oh, this is like a mine. This is really hard. I would want to close the door and never have it open.
Yeah, I think same.
Really?
I think so. Actually, I'm confusing myself now.
It's quite hard, right? It's quite hard to like...
Okay, so I would rather be able to open the door. Is that right?
It depends where you're answering it from.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about my own personal struggles, I would like to close the door and never have it open. But if you're talking about changing the world, I want to be able to open doors and let the mess in.
This is too profound. I would like to live in a world with no doors. How about that?
Okay, well done. Okay.
Yeah, and that's all for okay.
Yeah, that last line goes to ESTELLA Low.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, share this episode. If you want her back, hit up the comment section and go,
Yep.
we want Estella back.
Yes.
And we'll definitely have you back lah. That
Thank
was
you for
Yeah.
having
amazing.
me.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.